Have you ever noticed how much of your stress comes from things you cannot control? People's opinions, people's behavior, unexpected problems, and situations that refuse to go the way you planned. Many people spend their lives trying to control everything around them, and in the process, they lose control of their own peace. But what if the real power in life is not controlling everything, but learning how to detach from what does not deserve your mental energy? The moment you understand this, your mind becomes lighter, your reactions become calmer, and your life becomes far more peaceful. In this video, you will learn the art of detachment and how it can free your mind from people, problems, and unnecessary emotional stress. Chapter 1. Stop giving people control over your emotions. One of the biggest reasons people suffer emotionally is because they allow other people to control how they feel. A single criticism can ruin their mood, a negative comment can destroy their confidence, and someone's rejection can make them question their self-worth. When your emotions depend on other people's behavior, your peace becomes fragile. People are unpredictable, and their opinions often come from their own fears, insecurities, and personal struggles. Detachment begins when you understand that not every opinion deserves your attention. Just because someone says something about you does not mean it defines you. Learning to observe people's behavior without absorbing it emotionally is the first step toward mental freedom. Chapter 2. Accept that you cannot control everything. Many people feel stressed and frustrated because they constantly try to control things that are simply outside their control. They want people to behave in a certain way. They want situations to unfold exactly as they planned, and they expect life to follow the path they imagined in their mind. When things do not happen the way they expected, disappointment and anxiety quickly appear. The truth is that life is naturally unpredictable. No matter how carefully you plan things, there will always be unexpected situations, delays, misunderstandings, and changes. People will sometimes disappoint you, plans will sometimes fail, and circumstances will sometimes move in directions you did not expect. When someone tries to control every part of life, their mind becomes tense and exhausted because they are constantly fighting against reality. Detachment begins when you clearly understand the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot control other people's behavior. You cannot control every situation that happens around you, and you cannot control how life unfolds in every moment. What you can control is your attitude, your effort, your decisions, and the way you respond to situations. When you stop trying to control everything, your mind becomes calmer. Instead of resisting life, you begin to adapt to it with patience and clarity. You start focusing your energy on the things that truly belong to you, such as improving yourself, making wise decisions, and responding to challenges with calm thinking. This shift in mindset removes a huge amount of unnecessary stress from your life and allows you to move through difficult situations with much greater inner stability. Chapter 3. Learn to observe instead of react. One of the biggest reasons people lose their peace is because they react too quickly to everything that happens around them. A small disagreement can instantly turn into anger. A rude comment can immediately create frustration, and a misunderstanding can quickly grow into an emotional conflict. Most people do not even realize how automatic their reactions have become. The moment something unpleasant happens, the mind jumps into reaction mode without giving itself time to think clearly. When the mind constantly reacts in this way, life begins to feel emotionally exhausting. Every small situation starts to feel bigger than it actually is, because the reaction is stronger than the situation itself. A careless comment from someone can stay in the mind for hours. A minor problem can ruin an entire day. Slowly, this habit of reacting makes the mind restless and unstable. Detachment teaches a very different way of handling life. Instead of reacting immediately, you begin to observe what is happening. Observation creates a small but powerful space between the event and your response. In that space, your mind becomes calmer and more aware. Instead of being controlled by your first emotional impulse, you gain the ability to think before you respond. This small pause is extremely powerful. When you observe a situation calmly, you start seeing things more clearly. You may notice that the person who spoke harshly is actually dealing with their own stress. You may realize that the situation is not as serious as your first reaction made it seem. Many conflicts lose their power when you simply step back and observe, rather than reacting instantly. For example, imagine someone criticizes your work or disagrees with you. If you react immediately with anger or defensiveness, the situation can quickly turn into an argument. But if you pause for a moment and observe calmly, you might respond with patience or simply choose not to engage in unnecessary conflict. That small moment of observation protects your peace and prevents the situation from growing into something bigger. Observation also strengthens your emotional intelligence. When you observe instead of reacting, you begin to understand people better. You see their behavior more clearly, and you stop taking everything personally. You realize that many people's actions are simply reflections of their own emotions, fears, or struggles. Over time, this habit of observing changes the way you experience life. Situations that once caused stress begin to feel smaller. Conflicts that once drained your energy lose their importance. Your mind becomes calmer because it is no longer jumping from one emotional reaction to another. This does not mean you ignore problems or suppress your emotions. It simply means you respond with awareness instead of reacting impulsively. Your actions become more thoughtful, your words become calmer, and your decisions become wiser. People who master this ability become very difficult to disturb emotionally. They do not allow every situation to control their mood. Instead, they remain steady, thoughtful, and composed, even when others around them become reactive or emotional. Learning to observe instead of reacting is one of the most powerful steps in mastering the art of detachment. When you develop this skill, your mind becomes stronger, your emotions become more balanced, and your peace becomes much harder for the outside world to disturb. Chapter 4. Stop carrying the weight of the past. One of the quiet reasons many people struggle to feel peace in their lives is because they continue carrying the emotional weight of the past. Old memories, past mistakes, broken relationships, regrets, and painful experiences stay alive in the mind long after the events themselves have ended. Even though those moments are already gone, the mind continues to revisit them again and again. Many people replay past situations repeatedly, thinking about what they should have said, what they should have done differently, or how things could have turned out better. They imagine different versions of the same moment and wonder how life might look today if they had made a different choice. But the more the mind returns to the past, the heavier it begins to feel. The past slowly becomes like a weight carried on the shoulders of the mind. Every regret adds another layer, Every painful memory adds another burden, and every mistake becomes something a person silently punishes themselves for. Over time, this habit drains emotional energy and prevents a person from fully experiencing the present moment. Detachment teaches a powerful shift in how we see the past. Instead of treating the past as something to hold on to emotionally, we learn to treat it as a teacher. Every experience, even the painful ones, contains a lesson. Mistakes show us where we can grow. Failures teach us patience and resilience. Disappointments reveal truths about people and about life that we may not have understood before. But once the lesson has been learned, there is no reason to keep carrying the pain. Holding on to regret does not change what already happened. No amount of overthinking can rewrite a moment that has passed. The only thing it does is keep your mind trapped in something that no longer exists. When a person becomes attached to the past, they begin living in memories instead of living in the present. Detachment allows you to take the wisdom from your experiences and release the emotional burden that comes with them. It means acknowledging what happened, understanding the lesson within it, and then allowing yourself to move forward without constantly looking back. This process requires patience with yourself. Everyone makes mistakes, everyone experiences disappointment, and everyone goes through moments they wish had turned out differently. These experiences are part of being human. They shape your understanding and help you grow stronger, wiser, and more aware. When you begin practicing detachment from the past, something very important changes inside your mind. The constant mental replay begins to slow down. The emotional charge attached to old memories starts to fade. Situations that once caused pain begin to feel like distant chapters of a story rather than wounds that are still open. Your mind becomes lighter because it is no longer carrying the weight of events that cannot be changed. Instead of being trapped by what happened before, you begin to focus on what is possible now. The present moment becomes clearer, and your energy starts moving toward growth, learning, and building a better future. Detachment does not mean forgetting your past or pretending it never happened. It means refusing to let it control your present peace or define your future identity. The past may have shaped you, but it does not have the power to decide who you become next. When you release the emotional attachment to what has already passed, you give your mind the freedom to grow, to heal, and to move forward with strength and clarity. Chapter 5. Protect your mental energy. One of the most important things people often overlook in life is the value of their mental energy. Every day, your mind is constantly thinking, analyzing, reacting, and processing the world around you. This mental activity requires energy, focus, and emotional strength. But many people unknowingly waste this energy on things that have little or no real value in their lives. A large portion of stress and emotional exhaustion comes from giving too much attention to unnecessary situations. People spend hours thinking about arguments, replaying conversations, worrying about someone's opinion, or imagining negative scenarios that may never even happen. These thoughts slowly consume mental space and drain emotional strength. For example, someone may say something rude or unfair to you during the day. Instead of letting the moment pass, the mind begins to replay it again and again. Hours later, the same situation is still being analyzed, questioned, and emotionally relived. The person who made the comment may have already forgotten about it, but the mind continues carrying it like a heavy weight. This is how mental energy is quietly wasted. Detachment teaches you to become more conscious about where your attention goes. Your mind is a powerful tool, but it becomes exhausted when it is constantly pulled into unnecessary drama, conflicts, and worries. Not every situation deserves your attention, and not every comment deserves your emotional reaction. Learning to protect your mental energy means becoming selective with what you allow to stay in your mind. Some situations simply do not deserve long hours of thought. Some people do not deserve the emotional space they occupy in your mind. Some problems do not need to be analyzed repeatedly. When you recognize this clearly, you begin to shift your focus toward things that truly matter. Your mental energy should be invested in growth, learning, meaningful relationships, and building a better future for yourself. When your mind is focused on these things, it becomes sharper, calmer, and more productive. Detachment helps you develop the ability to step back from unnecessary mental noise. Instead of being pulled into every conflict or emotional disturbance around you, you learn to observe it and decide whether it is worth your attention. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply choosing not to react. When you refuse to engage with negativity or unnecessary arguments, you protect your peace and preserve your mental strength. This does not mean ignoring important responsibilities or avoiding real problems. It simply means recognizing the difference between what deserves your attention and what does not. Many things that disturb the mind are temporary and unimportant, but they appear large because we continue feeding them with our thoughts. When you stop feeding these thoughts, they slowly lose their power. Over time, protecting your mental energy transforms the way you experience life. Your mind becomes less cluttered with unnecessary worries. Your thoughts become clearer and more focused. You begin to approach challenges with calm thinking rather than emotional overwhelm. You also become more emotionally balanced because you are no longer reacting to every small disturbance. Situations that once caused frustration begin to feel less important. Your inner peace becomes stronger because it is no longer constantly being interrupted by external distractions. Detachment allows you to take control of your attention. Instead of letting the world decide where your mind goes, you begin choosing where your focus belongs. When you truly understand the value of your mental energy, you become much more careful about how you spend it. Just as you would not waste your time or money on things that bring no value, you also learn not to waste your thoughts on things that bring no peace. Protecting your mental energy is not only an act of self-discipline, it is an act of self-respect. It means recognizing that your peace of mind is valuable and refusing to give it away to every situation, opinion, or conflict that appears in your life. When you master this habit, your mind becomes calmer, your focus becomes stronger, and your life begins to feel much lighter. Chapter 6. Become comfortable being alone. One of the deepest fears many people quietly carry inside them is the fear of being alone. For many individuals, the idea of spending time without constant company feels uncomfortable or even frightening. Because of this fear, they remain attached to people, relationships, and environments that may not truly bring them peace or happiness. Many people tolerate unhealthy situations simply because they do not want to feel lonely. They stay connected to people who drain their energy. They remain in conversations that bring negativity, and they accept behavior that does not respect their value. All of this happens because the mind believes that being alone is worse than being surrounded by the wrong people. However, detachment teaches a very different and powerful understanding of solitude. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Loneliness is the feeling of emotional emptiness, while solitude is the state of being comfortable and peaceful in your own presence. When someone learns to enjoy solitude, it becomes a place of clarity rather than isolation. In quiet moments alone, the mind begins to settle. Without the constant noise of outside opinions and distractions, your thoughts become clearer. You begin to understand your own values, your goals, and your direction in life with greater honesty. Many people rarely give themselves the opportunity to experience this kind of mental clarity because they constantly fill their time with social interactions, entertainment, or distractions. While connection with others is an important part of life, constantly avoiding solitude can prevent a person from truly understanding themselves. Detachment allows you to develop a healthy relationship with your own company. When you become comfortable spending time alone, you begin to rely less on external validation. Your sense of self-worth no longer depends on how many people approve of you or how much attention you receive from others. Instead, your confidence begins to grow from within. This inner independence creates a powerful emotional strength. When you are comfortable with yourself, you no longer feel desperate to hold on to people who do not treat you with respect or kindness. You become more selective about the relationships you allow into your life. Instead of forming connections out of fear of loneliness, you begin choosing relationships that are built on mutual respect, understanding, and genuine care. This shift improves the quality of your relationships because they are no longer based on emotional dependency. Solitude also provides space for personal growth. When you spend time alone, you have the opportunity to reflect, learn, and strengthen your mind. You can focus on your goals, develop your skills, and understand your emotions more clearly. Many of the world's most thoughtful and creative individuals have valued moments of solitude because it allows the mind to think deeply without interruption. In those quiet moments, ideas become clearer and decisions become wiser. Detachment from the fear of being alone also protects your emotional balance. When you are comfortable with yourself, the absence of certain people does not disturb your peace. You do not feel incomplete without constant company because you have already learned how to find calm within yourself. This does not mean isolating yourself from the world or rejecting meaningful relationships. Human connection is valuable and important. However, when your happiness does not depend entirely on others, your relationships become healthier and more balanced. You can appreciate people without becoming emotionally dependent on them. You can enjoy their presence without fearing their absence. This freedom allows you to maintain your peace even when situations change or when people come and go from your life. Learning to be comfortable with being alone is one of the most powerful forms of detachment. It strengthens your independence, sharpens your self-awareness, and protects your emotional stability. When you no longer fear solitude, you discover something important. Your own presence can be one of the most peaceful places you can ever experience. Chapter 7. Discover the freedom of inner peace. The final and most powerful result of practicing detachment is the discovery of inner peace. This is not the kind of peace that depends on everything in life going perfectly. It is a deeper kind of peace that remains stable even when life becomes uncertain, difficult, or unpredictable. Many people spend their entire lives searching for peace in external things. They believe peace will come when their problems disappear, when their goals are achieved, when people treat them the way they want, or when their life becomes comfortable and secure. But the truth is that life will always contain challenges, misunderstandings, unexpected events, and moments of uncertainty. If your peace depends on everything around you being perfect, you may spend most of your life feeling restless. Detachment changes this completely because it teaches you to build peace from within rather than waiting for it to come from outside. When you learn to detach from constant expectations, emotional reactions, and unnecessary worries, the mind slowly becomes calmer. Situations that once caused stress begin to feel smaller. Problems that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable. This happens because your mind is no longer attaching its happiness to every situation that appears in life. Inner peace begins when you realize that not every problem deserves your emotional energy. Many things that disturb people are temporary and unimportant, yet they feel large because the mind continues to focus on them. Someone may say something negative, a plan may fail, or a situation may not go the way you hoped. When the mind is strongly attached, it immediately reacts with frustration, anger, or disappointment. But when detachment is practiced, the reaction becomes calmer. You begin to see that many situations do not deserve the level of attention and emotional intensity we often give them. This calm perspective allows your mind to remain stable even when the world around you is changing. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by every challenge, you begin approaching situations with patience and clarity. You start understanding that many difficulties are temporary and that reacting emotionally to every moment only creates more stress inside your mind. Inner peace also grows when you stop depending on other people to define your emotional state. Many individuals unknowingly give others the power to control their happiness. If someone praises them, they feel good. If someone criticizes them, they feel hurt. If someone ignores them, they feel rejected. This constant emotional dependence makes peace fragile because it depends on the behavior of others. Detachment breaks this cycle by helping you understand that your emotional balance belongs to you. Other people's words and actions may still affect you, but they no longer control your inner stability. You begin to see their behavior more objectively, recognizing that their opinions often reflect their own experiences, struggles, and perspectives rather than your true value. As this understanding deepens, you begin to experience a new sense of emotional freedom. Situations that once felt personal begin to feel neutral. You become less reactive and more thoughtful in the way you respond to life. Your mind stops chasing approval and begins focusing on growth, self-respect, and inner clarity. Another powerful aspect of inner peace is the ability to remain calm in uncertain situations. Life rarely moves in a perfectly predictable direction. Plans change, opportunities appear and disappear, and unexpected challenges often arise without warning. Many people become anxious because they want life to feel completely certain and controlled. Detachment helps you develop the strength to accept uncertainty without fear. Instead of trying to control every detail of life, you begin trusting your ability to adapt and respond wisely to whatever comes. This trust in yourself creates a deep sense of stability because you know that even if situations change, you will still be able to face them with clarity. Inner peace also grows when you simplify the way you think about life. Many people create unnecessary stress because their minds are constantly filled with comparison, expectations, and worries about the future. They compare their progress with others. They expect life to move in specific ways, and they constantly imagine problems that may never actually occur. Detachment gradually removes this mental noise. When you stop comparing yourself to others and stop expecting life to follow a perfect script, your mind becomes quieter. You begin appreciating the present moment more fully because you are no longer trapped in constant mental conflict. In this quiet state of mind, your thoughts become clearer and your decisions become wiser. Instead of reacting impulsively to every emotional impulse, you begin responding with patience and understanding. This creates stronger relationships, better decisions, and a more balanced way of living. Inner peace does not mean that problems will never appear again. Life will still bring challenges, disagreements, and moments of disappointment. However, when your mind is detached, these situations no longer shake your emotional foundation. You experience them, learn from them, and continue moving forward without allowing them to control your entire mental state. This quiet resilience becomes one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. People who possess inner peace are able to face life with calm confidence. They do not allow small disturbances to ruin their mood, and they do not carry unnecessary emotional burdens for long periods of time. Over time, this peaceful mindset begins influencing every area of your life. Your relationships become healthier because you approach them with understanding rather than emotional dependence. Your work becomes more focused because your mind is not constantly distracted by unnecessary worries. Your decisions become clearer because you are thinking with calm awareness rather than emotional pressure. Most importantly, you begin experiencing life in a much lighter way. The constant mental tension that many people carry slowly disappears. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the complexity of life, you start moving through it with a quiet sense of balance. Detachment ultimately teaches you one of the most powerful truths about peace. The less tightly you hold on to things that are temporary, the more freedom your mind begins to experience. People, situations, and circumstances will always change, but when your peace is built from within, these changes no longer control your emotional state. You begin living with a sense of calm independence. You appreciate good moments without becoming attached to them, and you face difficult moments without becoming consumed by them. This balanced approach allows you to remain steady while life continues to move and evolve around you. The art of detachment does not remove you from life. Instead, it allows you to experience life more clearly and peacefully. Your mind becomes less burdened by unnecessary thoughts, your emotions become more balanced, and your inner world becomes a place of calm strength. When you reach this state of inner peace, you realize something deeply powerful. The freedom you were searching for was never hidden in other people, achievements, or perfect circumstances. It was always waiting within your own mind, ready to appear the moment you stopped attaching your happiness to everything outside of yourself. Chapter 8. Mastering the Power of Letting Go. One of the deepest lessons within the art of detachment is learning the true power of letting go. Many people believe that holding on tightly to things is a sign of strength. They believe that if they continue thinking about something, worrying about it, or trying to control it, they will somehow gain control over the outcome. In reality, the opposite is often true. The tighter a person holds on to something that cannot be controlled, the more tension, frustration, and emotional exhaustion they create within their own mind. Letting go does not mean that something was never important to you. It does not mean you stop caring or pretending that something did not matter. Letting go simply means you release the constant emotional struggle that comes from trying to control what is already beyond your reach. It means allowing life to move forward without forcing your mind to remain trapped in the same emotional moment. Many people struggle with letting go because the mind becomes attached to expectations. When we expect something to happen in a certain way, we begin building a mental picture of how life should unfold. We imagine how people should behave, how situations should develop, and how our efforts should lead to specific outcomes. When reality does not match that mental picture, disappointment appears. The mind begins to resist what has already happened. This resistance creates suffering. The event itself may be small, but the mind's refusal to accept it makes the situation feel much heavier. A conversation that did not go well can stay in someone's mind for days. A relationship that ended may continue to occupy their thoughts for years. A missed opportunity can become something they constantly replay and regret. The problem is not always the event itself. The real problem is the attachment to what we wish had happened instead. Detachment teaches that peace begins when we stop fighting reality. Life does not always follow the path we imagine. People do not always behave the way we expect. Situations do not always unfold according to our plans. When we accept this truth, the mind slowly stops resisting every change that appears. Letting go begins with understanding that many things in life are temporary. Situations change, people grow in different directions, and circumstances evolve over time. When we try to hold on to every moment exactly as it is, we create frustration because life is naturally designed to move forward. Instead of trying to freeze life in a certain form, detachment allows us to move with it. When something ends, we allow it to end. When something changes, we allow it to change. This acceptance removes the constant internal struggle that drains emotional energy. Another important part of letting go is releasing the need to constantly prove something to others. Many people hold on to situations because they want to prove they were right, prove their worth, or prove their value to someone who may never fully understand them. This desire for validation keeps the mind emotionally attached to conflicts that are no longer worth the energy. Detachment helps you recognize that not every situation requires your explanation or defense. Sometimes the most powerful choice is simply stepping away. When you stop trying to convince everyone to see things your way, you free your mind from endless arguments and unnecessary tension. Letting go also applies to the way we view our own mistakes. Many individuals carry deep regret for choices they made in the past. They replay those moments repeatedly and criticize themselves for what they could have done differently. While reflection can help us grow, constant self-blame keeps the mind trapped in old memories. True detachment allows you to learn from mistakes without allowing them to define your identity. Every person grows through experience. The lessons you gain from your past are valuable, but they should guide your future rather than imprison your thoughts. When you let go of constant regret, your mind becomes lighter. Instead of living in what cannot be changed, your focus shifts toward what can still be created. Letting go also protects your emotional energy in relationships. Not every person you meet is meant to stay in your life forever. Some individuals enter your life for a short period and teach you something important before continuing on their own path. When relationships naturally change or end, holding on to them too tightly often creates unnecessary pain. Detachment teaches that relationships should be appreciated while they exist. but not forced when they no longer grow in a healthy direction. When you release the need to hold on to every connection, you allow space for healthier and more meaningful relationships to develop. One of the most powerful benefits of letting go is the clarity it brings to your mind. When you stop holding on to constant worries, regrets, and expectations, your thoughts become calmer. You begin to see life with greater understanding because your mind is no longer crowded with emotional tension. In this calm mental state, your decisions become clearer. Instead of reacting emotionally to every situation, you respond with patience and wisdom. Your actions become guided by awareness rather than frustration. Letting go also builds inner strength. At first, it may feel uncomfortable because the mind is used to controlling and holding on to things. But with practice, you begin to realize that releasing what you cannot control actually creates freedom rather than weakness. This freedom allows you to move forward without constantly looking backward. Your energy shifts from resistance to growth. You stop spending your time fighting situations that cannot be changed and begin focusing on creating a better direction for your life. When detachment becomes part of your mindset, letting go becomes easier. Instead of clinging to every outcome, you begin trusting the natural flow of life. You give your best effort where it matters, but you allow situations to unfold without forcing them to match your expectations perfectly. This balance between effort and acceptance creates a powerful sense of inner stability. You remain engaged with life, but you are no longer emotionally trapped by every outcome. Over time, the practice of letting go transforms the way you experience challenges. Problems that once felt overwhelming become manageable because your mind is no longer amplifying them with constant emotional resistance. You learn to experience life with openness rather than fear. When something positive appears, you appreciate it fully. When something difficult happens, you face it calmly and allow it to pass. This is the true power of detachment. Letting go does not remove meaning from life. Instead, it removes unnecessary suffering that comes from trying to control what was never meant to be controlled. It allows you to live with awareness, flexibility, and quiet strength. When you truly master the ability to let go, you discover something deeply liberating. Your peace no longer depends on holding on to every situation, person, or outcome. Your peace begins to come from the understanding that life will continue to move forward, and you have the strength to move forward with it. In that moment, your mind becomes lighter, your heart becomes calmer, and your life begins to feel far more peaceful than it ever did when you were holding on to everything so tightly. Chapter 9. Building an Unshakable Mind. One of the greatest benefits that comes from practicing detachment is the development of an unshakable mind. This does not mean that life suddenly becomes easy or that challenges disappear. Instead, it means that your inner stability becomes stronger than the situations happening around you. Many people spend their lives being emotionally pushed in different directions by circumstances. A good day makes them feel confident and hopeful, but a difficult day quickly destroys that feeling. Their mood changes depending on the behavior of others, the success of their plans, or the approval they receive. This constant emotional movement can make life feel exhausting. When the mind depends on external situations to feel stable, it is always vulnerable to change. If something goes wrong, frustration appears. If someone criticizes you, self-doubt appears. If an unexpected challenge appears, fear quickly follows. Over time, this pattern weakens emotional resilience because the mind becomes used to reacting instead of remaining steady. Detachment helps break this cycle by teaching you to build strength from within rather than relying on external conditions. When you stop attaching your emotional stability to every event that happens around you, your mind begins to develop a deeper kind of strength. Situations may still affect you, but they no longer control your entire emotional state. An unshakable mind begins with awareness. You start recognizing that many things in life are outside your control. Other people will have their own opinions, their own moods, and their own decisions. Situations will sometimes change without warning. When you accept this truth, you stop expecting life to behave exactly the way you want. Instead, you begin focusing on strengthening the one thing that always belongs to you, your mindset. This shift in focus changes how you experience challenges. Instead of feeling overwhelmed when difficulties appear, you begin to see them as situations that can be handled calmly. You start asking yourself practical questions rather than reacting emotionally. What can I learn from this? What action can I take now? How can I respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively? These simple changes in thinking slowly build mental resilience. An unshakable mind is not created in a single moment. It develops through repeated experiences where you choose awareness instead of reaction. Each time you face a stressful situation calmly, your mind becomes a little stronger. Each time you refuse to allow negativity to control your mood, your emotional stability grows. For example, imagine someone criticizing your work or disagreeing with your opinion. A reactive mind may immediately feel attacked and respond with anger or defensiveness. But a detached mind pauses first. It observes the situation, considers whether the criticism has value, and responds thoughtfully rather than emotionally. Sometimes criticism contains useful feedback that can help you grow. Other times it simply reflects the other person's perspective. An unshakable mind can recognize the difference without becoming emotionally disturbed. This ability to remain calm under pressure becomes extremely powerful over time. People who develop this mindset are able to handle challenges that would overwhelm others. They remain composed in stressful environments, think clearly during difficult decisions, and maintain their emotional balance even when situations are uncertain. Detachment also strengthens patience, which is another key part of an unshakable mind. Many people become frustrated when results do not appear quickly. They expect immediate progress, immediate success, and immediate answers to their problems. When life moves slower than they expected, discouragement appears. However, someone who practices detachment understands that meaningful progress often takes time. Instead of becoming impatient, they remain focused on consistent effort. They understand that setbacks and delays are natural parts of growth rather than signs of failure. This patient mindset creates long-term strength. Instead of giving up when difficulties appear, they continue moving forward with steady determination. Over time, this persistence produces results that emotional reactions would have prevented. Another important part of building an unshakable mind is learning how to handle uncertainty. Many people become anxious when they do not know exactly what will happen next. They worry about future outcomes and imagine problems before they even exist. Detachment allows you to approach uncertainty with a calmer perspective. Instead of trying to predict every possible scenario, you focus on preparing your mind to handle whatever may come. You trust your ability to think clearly, adapt to new situations, and make wise decisions when the time arrives. This trust in yourself removes a large amount of unnecessary fear. You begin to realize that you do not need to control every outcome to remain stable. What truly matters is your ability to respond wisely when situations appear. An unshakable mind also protects your peace in social situations. When you are emotionally attached to approval, you may constantly worry about how others perceive you. You may adjust your behavior to please people, avoid expressing your true thoughts, or become anxious about being judged. Detachment frees you from this pressure. When your self-worth comes from within, other people's opinions lose much of their emotional power. You can listen to feedback without feeling threatened by it, and you can express your ideas honestly without constantly seeking approval. This quiet confidence naturally attracts respect from others. People often sense when someone is emotionally stable and comfortable with themselves. An unshakable mind creates a presence that feels calm, grounded, and trustworthy. Over time, the practice of detachment transforms the way you experience life. Challenges become opportunities to strengthen your resilience. Criticism becomes information rather than an attack. Uncertainty becomes something you face with curiosity instead of fear. Your mind begins to feel like a stable foundation rather than a fragile structure easily shaken by external events. This does not mean you become emotionless. You still experience happiness, sadness, excitement, and disappointment. The difference is that these emotions no longer control your entire perspective. They pass through your awareness without dominating your decisions. An unshakable mind allows you to remain centered even when the world around you is chaotic. While others may react with panic or frustration, you remain steady and thoughtful. Your ability to remain calm becomes one of your greatest strengths. Ultimately, building an unshakable mind is not about becoming perfect or avoiding all difficulties. It is about strengthening your inner foundation so that life's challenges do not constantly disturb your peace. When you practice detachment consistently, you begin to realize that true strength does not come from controlling everything around you. True strength comes from mastering your own mind. And once the mind becomes stable, life becomes far less overwhelming. You move through challenges with clarity, respond to difficulties with patience, and maintain your peace even when circumstances change. This is the power of an unshakable mind, and it is one of the most valuable outcomes of mastering the art of detachment. Chapter 10. Living with Freedom and Clarity. After practicing detachment and developing inner stability, a person begins to experience a new way of living that feels lighter, clearer, and more peaceful. Many people spend their lives feeling mentally crowded. Their mind is constantly filled with worries about what others think, stress about the future, regrets about the past, and pressure to control everything happening around them. This mental noise slowly drains their energy and makes life feel heavier than it truly needs to be. Detachment gradually removes this unnecessary weight from the mind. When you begin letting go of constant emotional attachments, your thoughts become clearer. The mind is no longer overwhelmed by endless reactions, expectations, and fears. Instead, it becomes calmer and more focused. This clarity changes the way you experience everyday life because you are no longer reacting to every situation automatically. Living with clarity means you begin seeing situations for what they truly are, rather than through the lens of emotional attachment. Many problems appear large simply because the mind exaggerates them. When we are attached to an outcome, every obstacle feels threatening. When we are attached to someone's opinion, every criticism feels personal. But when detachment is present, the mind becomes more balanced. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin observing life with calm awareness. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to appear manageable. Your decisions become wiser because they are no longer driven by fear, frustration, or the need for approval. One of the greatest forms of freedom that detachment creates is freedom from constant comparison. In today's world, many people measure their lives against the achievements, appearance, or lifestyle of others. They compare their progress, their success, and even their happiness to what they see around them. This habit quietly creates dissatisfaction because someone else will always appear to be doing better in some way. The mind begins chasing an unrealistic standard, believing that happiness will come only after reaching the same level as others. Detachment helps you step out of this exhausting cycle. When you stop comparing yourself constantly, you begin focusing on your own journey. You realize that every person moves through life at a different pace and faces different challenges. Your progress does not need to look like anyone else's progress. This shift creates a sense of personal freedom. Instead of chasing approval or recognition, you begin building a life that reflects your own values and priorities. Living with clarity also changes the way you approach goals and ambitions. Detachment does not mean losing motivation or avoiding responsibility. Instead, it helps you pursue your goals with a healthier mindset. When people are strongly attached to outcomes, they often become anxious about failure. They fear mistakes because they believe their value depends entirely on success. This pressure can create stress that interferes with clear thinking. Detachment removes this pressure by reminding you that your worth does not depend on any single outcome. You can give your best effort toward your goals while accepting that results may take time or may unfold differently than expected. This mindset allows you to work with focus and dedication without being overwhelmed by fear or anxiety. Another important part of living with freedom is emotional independence. Many individuals depend heavily on others for emotional validation. They seek approval, reassurance, and recognition to feel confident about themselves. When this validation does not appear, their confidence weakens. Detachment helps you develop confidence that comes from within. Instead of constantly asking whether others approve of your choices, you begin asking whether your actions align with your values. This shift builds a deeper form of self-respect because your decisions are guided by internal clarity rather than external pressure. With emotional independence comes greater stability in relationships. When you are not emotionally dependent on others for your sense of worth, your relationships become healthier and more balanced. You appreciate people for who they are without trying to control them. You allow them the freedom to have their own thoughts and choices while maintaining your own emotional stability. This reduces unnecessary conflict and creates more genuine connections. Living with detachment also improves your ability to handle change. Life is constantly evolving, and situations rarely remain the same for long periods. Relationships shift, opportunities appear and disappear, and personal circumstances change over time. Many people struggle during these transitions because they become attached to how things used to be. They resist change and try to hold on to moments that have already passed. Detachment allows you to accept change as a natural part of life. Instead of resisting it, you begin adapting to it with calm awareness. You understand that every phase of life carries its own lessons and opportunities. This flexible mindset reduces stress and allows you to move forward without constantly feeling stuck in the past. Living with freedom and clarity also means simplifying the way you experience the world. Many people make life more complicated than it needs to be because their mind is constantly chasing more recognition, more success, more approval, and more control.